Well, hello and welcome back. These are the three scariest stories that I have been told by my coworkers, other nurses that have been in healthcare for years. And when healthcare workers tell you that they experience something that they can't explain, listen to them because I do. These aren't stories that I found somewhere floating around on the internet or that I made up from the top of my head. These are stories that have been told to me by people that I work with directly. And the last one, I probably would have been a nurse after I experienced that. You let me know down in the comments. And if you don't know, I'm Denise.Jewels. I tell creepy short healthcare stories on Facebook and TikTok and I guess now YouTube. So sit tight and take a listen to these three tales and you let me know which one is going to keep you up tonight. This story comes from one of my coworkers who has been an ER nurse for over 20 years. And she told me out of all of the patients, this is the one woman that will always stick with her. There was an adult woman who came into the ER and she had this doll with her and a family member. And the family member told her that there was something wrong. There was like a sudden change in mentation for this woman. Now, she was awake, she was responsive, she was able to answer all of the questions, even appropriately. But there was just this really strange blank stare, and the really weird thing about it all is that every time she spoke, before she would answer a question, woman would take a baby doll, put it up to her ear like she was listening to the doll, and then she would answer the question. And then she would do it again and answer another question. The family member looked over at my coworker and was like, "This is not her baseline. This is not normal for her." So she finishes up triage. They get her to the back. They work the woman up and eventually they get her transferred over to the psych unit to kind of see what's going on with her. And that's when my coworker looks over at the stretcher where the woman was laying at. She was going to take the sheet off and she realizes that she left that doll laying on the bed. Y'all, without even really thinking about it, my coworker picks the doll up off of the bed so that she can take off the sheet. And the moment she does, she swears that the doll whispers to her, "I'm trapped in here." She says she dropped that doll so fast she had the hut call security and she was like, somebody needs to get that dog. And to this day, she said if an adult comes in with any type of toy, doll, anything, she will never touch it again. So, y'all let me know if y'all thought that story was creepy because that kind of got up under my skin because I don't like dolls. Let me know if you like dolls down in the comments. But this next story, this is the one for the people who are a little claustrophobic, should I say. If you don't like elevators, maybe it's time for you to turn on the light because it's going to get a little creepy for you. Because I feel like when you work in healthcare, you realize there are just some elevators you don't want to ride after midnight. Stick around to the end and I'll tell you about my creepy experience with an elevator as well. This story comes from one of my coworkers who has been with this particular facility for about 10 years. And she says this is the reason why she will never take the elevators if she can avoid it. She said that she had been working at the facility for about 4 or 5 years at this point, and she had to take a patient up to the psych unit. Our psych unit is in one of the older parts of the building, and I ain't even gonna lie, the elevator is janky. It is known for stopping, opening on floors that you didn't stop at, kind of just not working properly in general. So when you go back there, if it was to stop or make a weird noise, it really wouldn't startle you because honestly, it's expected. They should definitely be updated soon. On this one particular night, though, she said that she just had this really uneasy feeling about going in that back hallway and going up the elevators. But since she had to transport a patient, he was in a wheelchair, she had security, she was like, it'd be straight. They get on the elevator, right? The door closes. The elevator starts to go up, and then suddenly it just jerks to a stop, which is kind of expected. Not wanted, but not unusual. The patient kind of reacts to it. The security guard looks around, and then the elevator does like a little jiggle, and then it starts to go up to the next floor. So she thinking like, "Oh my God, thank you. I'm so glad we didn't get stuck on the elevator." The doors begin to open up on the elevator, and as they are walking out of the elevator, they feel a chill. So they kind of look over their shoulder. Her, the security guard, and the patient see in the corner a tall, dark figure. Said she froze. She was like, "What the?" The patient begins instantly freaking out. And the security guard, he is just sitting there trying to keep his composure, but she could tell bro was scared too. She said nobody really said anything outside of that patient, but instead of her getting on that elevator, she left that wheelchair up there for somebody else to get. Cause child, ain't no way she was riding back down with whatever she just got off the elevator with. And one time when she had a patient that needed to go to site, she offered me a $5 tip if I would transport them. I declined, but she did get somebody else to do it. She says she avoids that elevator as much as possible ever since that day. And that ties into my story at the end as well. So stick around for that. Our first story involved a doll whispering to a nurse, and then the next one was a dark figure standing in the elevator. But, child, this story comes from my coworker Pam. She's been nursing longer than I've even been breathing. She said this is one of the patient encounters that she still cannot explain even to this day. And the weirdest part is that other people seen it too. There was an elderly man that came in. He was having this medical emergency. He had multiple serious problems. They were trying to get a hold of his family to figure out what exactly they wanted to do for him. So, if you don't work in healthcare, if you do not have a DNR in place, so do not resuscitate, we are going to try our best to keep you alive until we are told otherwise or until Jesus makes that decision. The medical team had gotten a hold of the family and they told him that it was a high possibility that the man may not make it through the night. They were trying to stabilize him, and the entire time while they were working, the man just kept screaming, "It's so hot in here." And then, right after he would say that, he would tell them, "Please tell them to stop grabbing me. Please tell them to stop grabbing me." My coworker, as a new nurse, thought that maybe this patient was just experiencing like a little bit of delirium or something of that nature. She walked into the room to check on the patient since he just kept screaming out, "It was hot. Tell them to stop grabbing me." And when she entered that room, it immediately hit her the smell of rotten eggs. She thought maybe the man had soiled himself, so she checked him. He was clean. There was no explanation for where that overwhelming smell of rotten eggs was coming from. She ignored the smell, but the man kept screaming, "They're grabbing me. It's so hot in here. They're grabbing me. It's so hot in here." The man sounded like he was in physical distress. She was starting to get more and more worried. As a new nurse, she couldn't figure out what would be causing him to react like that. And as she stood there a little bit within her panic, this man began to flatline. That's when they started the CPR. They tried all the efforts to resurrect this patient. And according to my coworker, this is the part that she has never been able to explain. Because while they were getting ready to do CPR, she said she saw black hands coming from beneath the bed. Like they were coming from underneath the bed and grabbing the patient. But this is the part that creeped her out the most. She wasn't the only one who seen it. The resident and the doctor who responded to that code also paused in that moment because they seen it as well. Several black hands just reaching from up under the bed at the patient. My coworker says she doesn't really believe in the paranormal and she's not an experienced ghost hunter or none of the things. And she hasn't really experienced anything paranormal outside of that moment since. But I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I'm almost 40 years old. If I would have seen that, I don't think I'd have been nursing that long. So, those are some of the creepiest stories that I have been told by my coworkers, people I've actually worked with in the healthcare setting. So, I'm curious to know which one gave you the creeps the most. Was it the one about the doll, or was it the elevator, or was it all the hands grabbing at the elderly man? Let me know down in the comments if you are a healthcare worker and you have a story that you would like to share with me that you just can't explain. You can send it to Denise.Jewels stories at gmail.com. I'll leave that down in the description below. And as promised, the very last story that I have for you before I let you go. When I was a new nurse and I worked in the facility that I currently work in, I was transporting a patient to CAT scan. I walked right past that very elevator where my coworker said that she had seen that dark figure. Now, when I came around that hallway, the elevator doors were wide open and something told me not to look. But if you're like me, you already know. You gotta take a peek. So as we come around the hallway and past the elevator doors, I look into that elevator and I seen a tall, dark figure standing right in the corner of the elevator. Now, we didn't have to go into that elevator because we were going to CAT scan, which was around the corner. But as we turned around that corner to go down to CAT scan, that's when my patient looked back at me and said, "Did you see death too?"